Welcome to my YouTube channel. I am your entrepreneurship tutor, Professor Henry Bwitha of Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology. Today I want to talk again about indiscipline in schools in Kenya. I recently posted a video here on problem 3. When there is indiscipline, we need to look deeper than what we are seeing. So, symptoms when students, pupils riot, go on the rampage, destroy school property, we are always quick to look at that as the problem, and yet the problem could be elsewhere. So elsewhere on this channel of mine, you will get that video. And normally, after those riots have taken place, then students are sent home, but then they are recalled, and each child is asked to pay for the damages that were done. And this is my talk today. There's this anonymous saying that it is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. Words of wisdom indeed in relation to parenting. Now, my elementary economics teacher used to tell us that a sequence of reciprocal cause and effect in which two or more elements intensify and aggravate each other, leading to a perpetual or even worsening of the situation, is called a vicious cycle, or even just a vicious circle. Now, the opposite of a vicious cycle is what economists call a virtuous cycle, also known as positive feedback loop. It occurs when constructive cause and effect cycles reinforce each other and lead to a continuous positive outcome. So there's a vicious cycle and there's a virtuous cycle. This is a vicious circle or cycle. An individual has low self-esteem. This low self-esteem leads to negative thoughts. The individual engages in negative thoughts. And these negative thoughts lead to high anxiety and poor performance. And this leads to failure. And this leads to self-blame and back to low self-esteem. So the cycle continues, is perpetuated if that low self-esteem persists, or if any of the stages here persist. There is also the famous vicious cycle of poverty. When people have low income, they get low savings. They can't save because the propensity to consume is very high. What economists call marginal propensity to consume. You consume everything that you get. And if you consume everything, there are low savings, then there are low investments. And when there are low investments, there's low output. And with this low output, leads back to low income. the developing countries like Kenya and many other African countries, indeed even in Asia, have this situation. There's low income, people don't save from hand to mouth, the economy cannot expand because low investments, low out because there's no employment or low employment, and we continue. But a virtuous cycle of development will be if we have high income, will lead to high savings, because if people have high income, then they have reached their roof of consumption. There's a lot now to save. The marginal propensity to save is high. And when they save through the banks or elsewhere, the banks invest. So high savings will lead to high investment, and we shall have high output, and the high income continues. This is what we observe in developed countries. So, how can we move from a vicious cycle of poverty to a virtuous cycle of development? How can we move from less developed country with vicious cycle of poverty to middle level income and developed country of a virtuous cycle of development? Some policies must be taken, some injections must be made, and one such an intervention that we know from the entrepreneurship point of view was by Mohammed Yusuf, who invented what we call microfinance. And with microfinance, the low savings, look at the red arrow, when the poor became bankable, then the low savings were converted to high savings, and we now move away from the vicious cycle of poverty to high savings via the microfinance and invention if you like, by Mohammed Yunus. And it has been adopted and adapted by many developing countries. So what are we saying? That to eradicate the vicious cycle, we need prudent interventions. And this is just one example. Now, I am persuaded by the undeniable fact that without discipline, nothing much can be achieved in life. I am told that even organized crime around the world survives on high levels of discipline. So, Mohammed Yunus brought about microfinance, disciplined saving and assistance of the low income, disciplined, savings was the reason many low income countries started transiting to or bring development. So discipline is necessary. Now, the recent happenings in Kenya, particularly in Kenyan schools, have given birth to a debate on how undisciplined school pupils can be treated or punished. I want to imagine that we have a vicious cycle of school indiscipline in Kenya, indeed as elsewhere. We have rude students, and when you have rude students, let me take a shortcut, property destruction in schools, and this leads to schools closure, and after schools closure, there is mass financial fines. Like I am told the recent happenings like Chesamesi School, Kimilili, Bukembe, and all that, students are being called back, but each one is supposed to pay a fine to stand for the destruction that was, met. But I am convinced, or let me say, I am not convinced that we are moving out of the vicious circle of school indiscipline. Why? My own research showed that in some of those schools, Form 1 students did not participate in the destruction. Some of them actually ran away, stayed clear of the destruction, but they are now also being punished by being asked to pay for destruction that they did not participate in. So in my own imagination, they were creating a mentality among those who did not participate but are paying, to think, well, it doesn't matter whether we participate or not, we shall still pay. Are we not developing hard cause? Are we not perpetuating this vicious circle? Because when those Form 1s come to Form 2, they will do what others did. Because after all, either they want to pay back for having been punished for what they didn't do, or they simply enjoy it because whether they participate in destruction or not, they will be punished, they will be asked. So I see therefore a vicious cycle. They go back to school. Next year, we have another closure because of what I've explained. So I'm thinking, can we create a virtuous cycle of school discipline? Can we have disciplined students which will lead to care for property, no destruction, which will lead to uninterrupted schooling, and probably just selective punishment, punishing only those who have been, who are culprits, and then we remain with the disciplined students, or those selectively punished will serve as a lesson to others, and therefore discipline will be restored, and we have this virtuous circle. Yes, like in the economy, we need some intervention, probably policy. And now, from the entrepreneur's point of view, it was Joseph Alois Schumpeter, who is considered the father of modern entrepreneurship, who in 1942 coined the term creative destruction, which refers to innovation which destroys old ways to replace them with the new and the better ones. So the immediate Kenyan example of creative destruction is when M-Pesa money transfer system creatively destroyed the postal money transfer system. So can we introduce a better way of punishment to destroy the old way of punishment and move forward? This was my problem tree in my other video of school problems. You can see I identified policy issues, political issues, and societal issues as the core root or roots of student unrest. I want now to dwell on policy issues, policies that can help create a virtuous circle of discipline in schools. But before I go there, there is a debate on whether students should be caned, corporal punishment should be returned in Kenya or not. Look, as I speak now, 8 African countries made corporal punishment in schools illegal.
Africa so far has made corporal punishment illegal in all settings, and that is Kenya, Benin, Cabo Verde, Republic of Congo, South Sudan, Togo, Tunisia, and most recently, South Africa. While most of the countries in Africa have committed to end corporal punishment, it is still legal even at home in Botswana, Mauritania, Nigeria, Somalia, Tanzania, Burundi, Burkina Faso, and Zimbabwe. And about 25% of Africa's children live in these states. 30 years ago, the UN passed its Convention on the Rights of the Child, a human rights treaty for children, and that includes the obligation to prohibit all corporal punishment of children. But caning and beating remain a common practice in many parts of Africa, and sometimes this can have fatal consequences.
Yes, many parts of Africa are still caning pupils, students. The 8 countries, including Kenya, have banned it, and we're seeing some consequences. Look, President Magufuli of Tanzania advocates for extremely tough measures, including very hard caning of errant students. Listen to him.
Haiwezekani serikali tunatoa mabilioni kwa ajili ya kujenga madarasa na shule, halafu mtoto anaenda kuichoma. Nikamwambia watoto wale wote, chunguza wote. Kwa hiyo form 5 na form 6 wa shule hiyo wote wamechunguzwa, na bodi imevunjwa kwa sababu ile pia ni uzembe wa bodi ya shule hiyo. Haki za binadamu, watoto wawe na viburi vya kipumbavu hivi. Ni lazima tufike mahali tuache mambo ya mchezo katika maendeleo. Hizi fedha zimechangiwa na watoto na wazazi maskini, kwamba watoto wetu wakasome. Unaenda pale na simu, binyang'anya na simu, unachoma jengo. Ni dhambi ya namna gani? Hawa haki za binadamu wamejenga basi hayo mabweni. Nisema kurudi hawa watoto lazima baba zao walipe ili mabweni yale ya jengo, na wale wengine ambao walihusika kabisa peleka roka kujea. Ndugu zangu, nayasema haya sio kwamba mimi sina huruma. Mimi na upendo mkubwa, tena mimi nimekuwa mwalimu, ninafahamu. Na ninawaomba wazazi na viongozi, muache haya mambo ya kusema akipigwa kiboko. Nafikiri kama kuna mahali tulikosea, hiyo sheria ikafanyiwa marekebisho, wao wanaandikwa kiboko.
Yes, we can see President Magufuli advocating for hard measures. In Uganda, Madam Janet Museveni, the wife of Uganda's President Museveni, says corporal punishment should be meted in moderation. She says, what is your job if you have children and fail to discipline them? But when you discipline them, don't beat them like criminals. So, Janet Museveni in Uganda advocates for moderate corporal punishment. And in Kenya, Kenya's Education Minister, Professor Magoha, as a person, seems to regret that Kenya passed this law against corporal punishment in schools. Listen to him.
Schooling system, given that there's a law, and you see, you people are now going to twist this one upside down. There's a law which bars that one. So until the law is changed, in fact, I keep asking myself, did we change the law in order to follow the external culture or not? Because in our culture, it is okay to smack a child responsibly. For me, I had 6 of the best, 6 times. If I didn't have them, I would have perhaps died as one of those band chaps who are playing guitar. So I'm talking from a personal experience, but as a minister, I cannot make that pronouncement without due process. Do you get the point? And I don't want to be unconstitutional, because there are certain people who say, you see, this madman has again said, this is what you have to do. Well, what is your own opinion? Yeah.
Yes. Corporal punishment. Of course, when there's corporal punishment, you're not going to beat everybody. You're not going to beat every child. You're going to beat selectively only those who are the culprits. But when there is no corporal punishment and we want every child to pay for even what the child did not do, whether there is equality or equity, think about it yourself. So, back to my vicious circle of indiscipline. I'm proposing that an intervention to convert this vicious circle into a virtuous circle is a weeding out strategy, selective punishment. The hard course can even be taken to approved schools. Taking to approved schools does not deny them school. They will go, they will continue the education, but in approved school, to get the discipline that they have been denied or we have not been able to give them. It's just like criminals. They go to jail, and mind you, when they come out, many of those criminals are reformed. Some come up with businesses, with the training. Some come out even preaching. So, a weeding out strategy. And I'm persuaded that when we have that, then we shall convert that vicious circle into a virtuous circle. We shall have the cleanest, the most disciplined students who will care for property, leading to an interrupted school, no fines, and school will continue. But the hardcores would have been weeded out. They have gone to, let's say, approved school, the very hardcores. They continue with school there and they get the discipline. Probably when they come out, they will be more disciplined than the rest. So, is this creative destruction? Is this entrepreneurial? Can we think outside the box? I am for corporal punishment meted in moderation, but I'm for also beyond corporal punishment, the hardcores taken away, given their right to continuing education, going to approved school. Indeed, even the parents who are unable to discipline their children at home will feel relief because the approved school will be punishing for them. That is my take. If you enjoyed it, like it, share it, subscribe. For a lot more, and especially on entrepreneurship, reach us. MUCMIC, www.mucmic.co.ke, that's our website. There's a lot more on our website. Reach me via my email, wilhelm@gmail.com. May you have a disciplined day.